Dr. Jazz.
Thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Jazz.
Well, I'm glad it finally connected,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
It's been
me too.
several attempts.
Yeah, well, persistence is a good virtue, so.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
that's how you get better at playing and writing and everything else too, you
exactly.
know?
Yeah. No, but I have you on so many records. I remember like already in the 90s, I got Discovery Zone and Third Eye,
Oh,
I'm such a fan of
wow.
Abercrombie, so
Oh, yeah.
I saw John was on those records. I was like, shit, I got those, and I love that stuff. That's so
Oh,
beautiful, man.
man. Yeah, I miss John. I wish he was still around,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Tell you that was a hard band to keep together because everyone was a leader in their own way.
yeah.
And I I managed to do gigs for 15 years with that band, miraculously.
Wow.
There
Yeah,
was a lot of effort, though, to get the schedules to match up.
yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
How did you meet with John? But I mean, since I mentioned him, like, what's your story with John
With John.
Abercrombie?
So, yeah, so he was real close friends with Mick Goodrick.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I played a lot with Mick in the late 70s and all through the 80s. And I was in Chicago. I had met a girl, and I was visiting a girl in Chicago that I was dating at the time, and we went to Joe Siegel's House of Jazz
yeah.
to see Abercrombie in a trio with Peter Erskine and Mark Johnson.
Mark Johnson. Yeah,
Yeah, it was awesome. It was just
yeah.
burning, burning, burning. At the end, I walked up to John at the bar to say how much I enjoyed it and to say hello and all this. But he said, "Hey, I know you." And I said, "You do?" He said, "Yeah, you're on a record cover with my friend Mick, you know." And he had been enjoying the music with Mick and Bergonzi.
That Con Brio record, probably, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Combrio
yeah,
record
sure.
that
Yeah, I love that one
Mick
with
had
Jeff on
laid
drums.
one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He laid one
Sure.
on to John. Yeah, that's
Oh,
what it was.
beautiful.
And so then we became friends, and there was an old alto player in Boston named Jimmy Mosier who's been gone quite a while. He was in Buddy Rich's band and all these other bands, like, you know. Jimmy was friends with Abercrombie. I guess when Abercrombie went to Berkeley, maybe Jimmy might have been there at the same time. I know Mick was. I know that George
That
Mraz
generation.
was, and
Yeah.
I know that Miroslav was there. And I mean, it was what's his Joe Zavino.
Sure.
It was a period with all these fantastic musicians. Rick Leard, the guy that played with
Yeah,
Mahavishnu. They were all there at the same time in the '60s.
yeah, yeah. Of course, that's like.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, Jimmy Mosier probably was there in the '60s too, before he went with Buddy, and he became good friends with John. So he hired me and John together, and that's how I got close with John because we got to play and enjoyed it. And then one of the nights Jimmy couldn't make the gig, and we ended up playing duo.
Ooh.
And my roommate actually came and recorded the gig.
Wow.
You
So you
know,
still have it?
I don't think he ever gave it to me,
Ah,
but
shit.
I mean, I might have it, but I have quite a few recordings with John.
Oh man.
I got all kinds of tapes and all the gigs have been recorded.
Hmm.
Yeah. And there were
That-
outtakes from the albums as well.
Yeah, you should somehow get those out. I mean, those are probably amazing. Just
There's some pretty amazing stuff.
yeah,
When you get, like, I've been playing so long that when I hear myself back then, I don't really get excited about it as much. You know what I mean?
sure. I'm the
And
same. Yeah.
I feel like I've kind of grown from that. And so I listen and I say, well, okay, it's cool. Let's take all the bass solos out. Like, go edit this thing and remove all the bass solos, and then it'll be great because all the other guys are like, they're still blowing my mind.
Well, I mean, okay, yeah, but yeah, it's. I know
It's
what
just
you mean because I'm the same as a band leader. When I listen, I'm like, shit, I wish I could have done it differently, but I think from
It's
the outsiders, it's like different, right?
That's true, yeah.
Yeah,
But the self critic in me,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and also, as you develop, you look back and you think, okay, well, that was then, and this is now, and I don't approach it the same way because I know I'm going to stumble at this or that,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it's just nice to hear those. Like, I know Harvey Swartz.
RBS?
Yeah, yeah. He issued. He sent me a tape they did with Alan Dawson and Mike Stern in trio, like '84 or something, and it's killing, man. And there's like tons
Wow.
of those tapes running everywhere, in some basements and stuff. And
I have a lot of
just
gigs
like,
with Alan Dawson on tape
oh
too.
man,
I
come
got a
on.
trio from the 1369 Jazz Club with Lee Konitz and me and Alan, and it's
Oh
just
man.
it's very creative. It's like a lot of he's such an improviser. This guy Lee Konitz.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. People don't know him so much for his more kind of outside playing. Let's put it like that. He was always in his vein, all the
They-
things you are, all
he
his
was in
stuff and
that
stuff.
niche of
Yeah,
Lenny Tristano, Warren Marsh, and those
yeah,
guys that they played all those cuckoo heads on standards and stuff. Yeah, and they approached music from a different place than bebop,
yeah,
which was cool.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing
he was
player.
an interesting guy, Lee Konitz, very kind of aloof, you know.
I've heard so many stories about him. It's like really,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, what a player. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah,
an incredible
super
player.
creative.
Yeah,
Yeah, unique,
yeah,
unique. Yeah.
yeah. Otherwise, Bruce, I wanted to ask you, like the last time I heard by you speaking of band leading was Gently Sad, and
Oh, yeah.
am I behind or like what has been happening on the band leading department? Have you been writing new stuff or preparing something new or?
Well, since then, since that album, I've written quite a few things, and I have a residency at a club in Boston called the Lily Pad.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
Every other month on the fourth Tuesday. And I use the best players I can get to do each one of these. And I always bring in my latest tunes.
Fantastic.
So, I've played a bunch of them, but I have to go and record more, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's time to catch up a little bit on that because I write more frequently than I get to play with my own band. I'm primarily doing a lot of sideman gigs.
Yeah.
But this week I have well, the Berkeley Bass Camp is happening this weekend. Victor Wooten and Steve Bailey, and they bring in guests, outside. There's a lot of teachers that they bring in to do it. So I'm going to be doing a duo with Peter Slavov.
Oh, beautiful.
Friday night, we're just going to play a tune together, two uprights.
Oh,
Because everybody else is going to be fusion, electric, slapping, doing insane
all
solos,
these crazy guys, yeah.
ballistic, chops. And yeah, and then the following Saturday, I'm going to open solo bass for Ravi Coltrane
Mm,
at this Center for Arts at the Armory in Somerville,
beautiful.
which is near Cambridge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
How do you write usually? I mean, when I listen to the last record, you've written some beautiful tunes like that Magdalene and Sam's Pillow. I don't know.
Oh,
I love those hats and the melodies. Like, what's your process when writing? Do you play on the double bass and write it down
that's a
or
good
just?
question. It's I'm at the piano right now, right
Mm,
here.
okay.
You got, so it's a little out of tune, but it's here. And I have a bass in the corner as well, and that's one of 5 that are in the house in different rooms.
Lurking everywhere. Yeah.
Well, the kids moved away. I mean, they're all out of the house now, and so the rooms have all become music rooms.
Sure.
So I walk into a room and there's always a bass that I can go to, which is nice. But some of my tunes I've written on bass, but primarily in the last few years, most of my tunes have been on the piano.
Piano. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Mm,
because I'm not really a technical pianist per se, but I can play, read the parts of my own songs and stuff, and I create a lot of new songs on the piano.
yeah.
And as a practice, well, I always keep a pad by the bed,
That's smart. Yeah.
manuscript pad. I have this really cool little pad I can show you. it was given out at one of the Berkeley things, and it's so cool. It's small, and I can just write on all the pages.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Oh man, I
And
love
yeah,
that.
I took it with me on trips and everything. It's been on the road. I've written a lot of things that come to mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and if I want to challenge myself, what I do sometimes is uh, I write 12-tone rows, and that offers me some alternative melodic ideas from, the typical diatonic sounding stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you like that record, right? Gently Said.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think what tune it is on there. Oh, well, actually, there's a bass solo on there called Neuromodulation.
neuromodulation. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and that actually starts out with a 12-tone row, and then, I get into some stuff. I can't really stick with the 12-tone row yet in my
yeah. That's heavy.
improv,
Yeah.
but what I do is I took advantage of a certain form I learned a while ago. You mentioned you had the record Third Eye.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the song Third Eye is based on a form that I learned from Mozart called rondo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a theme, and then you play some variations. Then the theme comes back, you play some variations, that etc. And you can have A, B, A, C, A, D, A, E, and on and on. So that's what Third Eye is, because I get coming back to the theme, but then I improvise at certain points along the way as I hear a chord or some kind of thing Adam does or whatever is happening. And then I come back to my theme, as I hear it. So I do the same thing on this tune. What tune was I talking about?
Neuromodulation. I mean, the solo
Right,
bass thing?
Neuromodulation.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah, so that one. But also another album that I did with Walter Smith
Oh
called.
yeah, the previous one. That's a killer, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Run
Thank you.
in the background. That one you mean,
That's
right?
it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. So
That's
you have that
beautiful.
one too. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so do
That's
you know there's a song on there called Deborah?
mm,
Yeah, that's a 12-tone row.
yeah,
The melody.
yeah.
And I was so happy and proud of myself because I finally came up with a 12-tone melody that I thought was pretty.
That's hard. Yeah, it's hard
A
to.
lot of times I find that, they don't always sound so pretty.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can make like a rubato kind of and then blow it open, but to
exactly.
make it sound pretty. Yeah, that's heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
in a group setting with chords, the whole thing. And yeah. So the melody's 12-tone, but the harmony is probably not so much. But
yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful.
So I
Yeah,
was really happy with that. I
yeah.
try
It's
to do things like that, and also I like to mess with sections in songs where the rhythm can change a little bit to offer the audience and the band, some various interest.
yeah,
So we don't just play like, okay, play the head solo, blah, 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 trade fours, etc. Yeah.
yeah,
that
yeah. We have to do that. Yeah, to challenge ourselves. And
kind
I mean, the bands you have are killing. Like, I wanted to ask you about speaking of running in the background. Uh, what's your story with Marvin Smitty Smith and
Oh,
with Vic Juris? I mean, Vic. We're talking about
okay.
guitarists a lot today, but with these
Yep.
two guys, like, what are your connections?
Okay, so we'll start with Marvin. So I've been teaching at Berkeley for almost 50 years. I started in 1976.
Wow,
47th, I'm in my 47th year or 48th year now,
wow.
right? And in the 80s, early 80s, I'd say around 81, Smitty was a student and he was studying with Bob Kaufman, who I was playing with a lot at the time. And so I met Smitty through Bob. And then this guy who had been the chair of our harmony department named Alex Ulanowski, somehow he got this gig backing up John Hendricks, the singer,
Mm-hmm.
and he hired Smitty and me together. And we ended
Mm,
up touring with John Hendricks. And we probably did a few months with him. And we played in New York and we played around, various places. And Smitty would always ride with me in my car. I had a 1978 red checker cab. You know the record that Christian McBride did called Getting to It, his
yeah,
first record?
yeah, yeah. Sure.
Okay, so you know the cover of that record?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had that
That's the same
car,
car. Yeah, yeah.
the
Okay.
same car. That's not my car, but that's the one I had. In fact, if you have all the albums, there's a record called Front End by Gons, which is Jerry Bergonzi, Bob Galati, and myself.
Probably have
And
it. I've heard it.
the
Yeah.
front cover of that LP is my car.
Oh, okay. I'll try to find it. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I drove him around, and on that tour we got really friendly, and we enjoyed playing together. And he was young, really young at the time, and
Yeah.
since then, like he became this monster. You know, like oh my God. I quit the Hendrix gig because they offered me $60 a gig and no hotel, and but they said they wanted to steal me away from Berkeley. John said that, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, let me see now. He sings all the bass solos. So I don't get any time to blow. I just have to play behind them, which I don't mind doing. But the whole thing about the him singing all those bass solos, you ever seen him do that?
Yeah. He was.
He had
I mean,
Mingus, he
crazy
did
stuff. Yeah.
PC, he did
Yeah.
Percy. He would say, "This is Mingus," and he'd do that hard, that aggressive kind of playing. But anyway, I thought, no, $60 a night. And I had my Berkeley gig at the time, and I was playing with a lot of good people in Boston. And I thought, nah. So Smitty stayed with him, and he got started in New York by doing that.
Mm.
And then years went by, but we kind of stayed in touch, and I watched him. I saw him with Dave Holland,
Yeah.
in Boston. We made a nice connection there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Dave is one of my biggest heroes. And so I just contacted Smitty and said, would you be willing to do this? I'll fly you up, give you a hotel room, pay you X. I didn't offer him a lot of money. I mean, it was very reasonable in my opinion, but for what he can do. But he was like, oh, Bruce, yeah, man. He was so enthusiastic.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And so that was the story with him. And then he came and we had a great hang, and he played his butt off, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so the other one was Mick Goodrick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Vic, I played in New York at the Blue Note with Abercrombie and Bergonzi. After my first album came out, I managed to get a gig at the Blue Note. Don't tell me how I did that, because it's not easy to do, but I did it, and it was very hip. I mean, but in the audience was Mick Goodrick. So he was a huge fan of John's too. And so he talked to me. It was my gig, so he told me how much he loved the music, and of course he saw me as a big fan of John's, all that stuff. So we met at that point, but we never played together. And then many years later, I got recommended to play a gig with Larry Coryell, the guitar
Oh, wow.
player.
Really? Wow.
It was called Strings Attached, and there were 5 guitar players, and somebody did all these arrangements for these cats. So there was Vic, Larry.
Wasn't Schofield on that gig? Because they did something.
No, not that one.
Not that one. Okay.
Not that one. Jeez. Okay, Joe Cohn was there.
Oh, wow.
Bruno, Jimmy Bruno.
Jimmy Bruno. Oh, wow.
An
Okay.
older guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was another guitar player on the thing that my mind is going, oh, Wilkins.
Jack Wilkins. Oh, wow.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. So, I had played with Jack Wilkins like back in the 70s at the Willow Jazz Club
Mm.
and a weekend, which was great fun. So, but I hadn't played with him since then. And here we are in the, 2000s. So anyway, I got a chance to be with Vic at that gig. And we were doing a gig in Connecticut, and Larry had a tune where he'd feature each guy. So it'd be like me and this drummer, Steve Williams, who was a Shirley Horn's drummer.
Mm.
Very great swing, beautiful player. And when it came to Vic and he was doing a trio with us, I felt the magic.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, this cat, man, I gotta get him on something, So then when I had the chance, at this point now, I had Smitty. Everybody wants to play with Smitty.
Oh, man. Of course.
So I got a hold of also before I got Vic, I had also got Lawrence Fields, the piano player.
Yeah.
I met at Berkeley as well. I had been a teacher. He was a student. I saw him play with all these final juries that I judged as a teacher. And I thought, this guy's amazing. I took his phone number at that point when he was a kid. And then I got an offer to play at this event for all these music publishers here in Boston at the Seaport. And I hired him to play, Lawrence, and it was so great, you know. And so we kind of stayed in touch too. And then I got him on the thing. And then Walter Smith, you know, I was amazed that these people all came on board like just no problem, you know. And we spent 2 days in the studio up there.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And the guy that recorded us was a former student of mine, Scott Petito. Really good bass player. Went to Berkeley, and like when I first started teaching there. And I got back connected with him because it turns out that his wife, he married a friend of my wife's.
Small world, right?
After we were married. So yeah, you know, and then, you know, she had played at our wedding, I think, and sang. And then one day my wife said, "Hey, you know Scott Petito?" I said, "Sure, yeah, Tony." We called him Tony at the time, but he married Leslie, you know, the girl that sang at our wedding. I was like, "Really?" You know, so we've gone and hung at their house and everything, and his studio was outside. He's had everybody in there. He's had Chick, he's had Schofield, he's had DeJohnette's been in there a lot because they live in the same area in New York. His studio's in Catskill.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think actually Schofield's album was recorded there. Tales of the Hudson.
Oh yeah,
So,
with Jack and
Larry Grenadier.
Medeski maybe, or Larry Grenadier.
Maybe, I figured who was on it, but
I know which one you mean. Yeah, yeah.
there's a picture of them on the cover. I think that's his yard. That's Scott's yard.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love those records. I mean, especially, you know, Vic was such an underrated player, I think, you know.
I know.
It's like amazing. When I talk to my students and I'm like, here, Vic Juris, like, who? Like, come on, people, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
and it turns out he has quite a discography
oh,
himself.
amazing. Such
I
a
didn't
great
find out
composer.
about that till after, you know, when I played with him and I thought, let me check him out some more. And I was like, whoa, you know.
Yeah. Some
Yeah,
beautiful
plus
records.
my friend played with him a lot, Adam Nussbaum.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So that was also a connection that I had too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Bruce, you mentioned Dave Holland, that he was one of the
Yeah.
most important guys for you. Like, what got you into jazz? I mean, was there like a moment when you said like, shit, I want to play this music, or like, how did you stumble into jazz?
Yeah. So I was taking guitar lessons
Oh,
in I guess in high school. I was about 15 or something. Yeah, I was about 15, and I'd had a few guitar teachers, you know, but I always played in the bottom four strings all the time. So the teacher I had said, he said, I think, you know, you seem to like the bottom four strings. He said, maybe you should be a bass player, right? And then he took me into this was in a music store. I grew up in Rhode Island in an Italian neighborhood, and one of these neighborhoods that was super funky, called Oneyville, had a music store called Ed Sack Music, Ed Sakosha. They taught accordion and stuff, you know. It's one of those Italian music stores
yeah.
where they teach accordion kids, you know. And so I had this teacher. So he said, "Yeah," he said, "You sound like you'd be a good bass player because you like that bottom stuff." I said, "I'll think about that," you know. And then turns out he doubled on bass and played a bunch of weddings and stuff on Fender. And so they had, of course, it was a music store. They had a Fender Precision on the shelf, and a Jazz. He pointed to the Precision. He said, "That's the one you want right there." And so I got all excited, you know, as a kid. I was like, man, a new instrument, like, wow, you know. And I started, of course, I listened at the time to rock, and I always loved the bass, but I never thought that I would play it. And I just thought I wanted to be a guitar player, right? Because those guys were out front and screaming and wailing, but then I really found out that my voice is really a bass voice, you know. And so I took the Fender, I practiced the hell out of it, and when I started to get into jazz, because we had a blues band, and there was a sax player in the band. He's a professor at Berkeley named Ed Tomasi. we heard him play. He was just amazing. We said, "Oh, we got to get him in our blues band," you know. But he was playing like Bird and Coltrane and stuff. He was already a jazz freak at the age of 13. This guy.
Wow, man.
So he played alto sax. So we sounded him, and he joined our band. And then, of course, after a few gigs, he said to me, "Bruce, man, you gotta listen to Coltrane. You gotta listen to Bird. You gotta listen to Miles. You know, all this stuff." And oh, okay. And so I started checking it out, right? And then my other friend in the band, the piano player, gave me a gift. It was a Charles Mingus record called Blues and Roots.
Mm-hmm.
Now here I am, I'm playing in blues bands, and I got an album called Blues and Roots. And, you know, half the music on there is bluesy as hell, you know? And so I'm checking it out. I'm like, oh my God, man, Mingus. So I started to go freak over Mingus. I went to the library. He was the most written about bass player in the world at the time, you know? And that's it. And I got hooked on that. I started copying Mingus solos on my, and bass lines on my electric bass.
Oh, wow.
And are you familiar with Larry Taylor?
Larry Taylor? No.
Yeah, they called him the Mole.
No.
He was the bassist with a blues band called Canned Heat.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sure. Okay, Can't Heat,
So
I know.
went
I have
to
CDs, yeah.
They came and played in Rhode Island, right? So, of course, me and the guys in the band were like, man, we got to go check out Canned Heat, you know? So we go to see them, and Larry Taylor is playing like more jazzy bass lines in the blues than anybody I heard before. And then they gave him solos and stuff, and he's like going nuts on the Fender. I was like, wow, I love this cat, you know? And so between him and Mingus, I was like sold. And then when I finally got to Berkeley, after I went to another school first for geology, not because I was into geology, but if I had to pick something other than music, that was it. And my parents, my father mostly thought, you know, music's not such a great idea. His father tried it and ended up selling fruit from a truck, you know, etc. So he didn't think I should go into that. But I couldn't help it. I got the bug, you know?
Yeah.
That's what happens.
That's always, yeah.
So yeah.
Beautiful.
And so I got into jazz because of the Mingus thing, and then and Ed Tomasi. And then when I finally got to Berkeley after my year in geology, which I didn't really learn a lot of geology, but I found guys to play with, and we started playing parties at the college, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I got to Berkeley the following year. I met my teacher, John Neves. He was I guess one of the premier jazz bassists in Boston. You know, he played with Stan Getz, Maynard Ferguson, all these people. He was friends with Paul Chambers. You know, they stayed in hotels across the hall from each other, and Paul would bring him over and put a bunch of music on the stand and say, let's go, you know? And he said he could never keep up with Paul. You know, Paul would be bowing this shit like, "Argh." Yeah. But anyway, Neves took me under his wing and gave me really long lessons. And eventually he started having me sub for him on gigs. And so I got to play with all these great people, including Alan Dawson.
Okay.
Yeah. And I even got to play with Count Basie one night.
Wow. Man.
And when I came back to school the next day, I wasn't a student at the time. I was teaching now, but he and I were neighbors, and our studios were near each other. And he comes over, he goes, you played with Basie last night. He was a little disappointed he didn't get to do it, but he subbed out of the gig, you know? And that was my first gig with Alan Dawson.
Yeah. He was amazing, right, Alan?
Oh, so great. And such a sweet guy.
Yeah,
you know?
Such an amazing player. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gig was backing up a singer named Helen Humes, and she used to sing in Basie's band. And so Basie happened to be with his big band in town at the time in Springfield, Mass, and he came up to visit to see her. And he was in the audience and nobody knew it. And then she said, I want to bring up a very special guest, you know? And sure enough, it was him. So he smiled, he said, blues and F. And he had such a magic touch.
Yeah.
He didn't play a lot, but every note was like a star in the sky, man. It was just like twinkles, you know, beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that kind of perfection in music, you know?
Yeah.
Simple perfection. It's just gets me somehow.
Yeah, and, absolutely. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
some guys, Jim Hall, you know, and
yeah,
w-
yeah.
for me the same, or so
Oh
many
yeah,
guys. Yeah, you know,
I know. Yeah, yeah.
beautiful. Like
Charlie
Charlie Hayden. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hayden.
Like he's the on the bass. That's
Yeah.
how to play the least possible amount of notes and
And get
still,
the most music
yeah,
per note.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
incredible player. Yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Uh, how did you then enter the scene? You know, you mentioned Mick Goodrick and Jerry Bergonzi. Were these kind of among the first professional gigs you got, or like how
Oh
did
no,
the story with them begin? I mean,
I was already uh, when at the point where I got a teaching job at Berkeley, you know, I was one of the few bass players as a student at the school that played tunes and stuff and, you know, and read
mhm,
and upright. There weren't as many upright as electric, of course, but maybe percentage wise, perhaps more than now, but there were only a handful of us, you know,
mm,
and some of the guys were maybe, I don't know, I just got along with these people, I guess, and so I hired, a lot of the teachers would hire me to play. And that's part of the reason I got the job teaching,
mm,
you know, because they could see that I knew my stuff, whatever, and I fit in with them. We became kind of friends. They weren't that much older than me, 10, 15 years, you know.
yeah,
So I played with Herb Pomeroy and John Laporta,
oh well,
uh, all the, you know, Ray Santisi, of course, all the teachers that were Phil Wilson, you know, the list goes on. Gary Burton, of course, I toured with Gary Burton.
really, oh wow,
Yeah,
oh
Adam
cool.
Nussbaum and Makoto Ozoni were on the
Wow, man, that's fantastic. What a band.
I was subbing for Swallow. But Gary's the one that asked me because I met him at Berkeley too, you know.
Mm,
And then I became what they called at the time the Berkeley All Stars. And we started the Berkeley on the Road recruiting stuff where we'd go around other countries and give clinics and play concerts. And we played some jazz festivals, etc., like that. Tommy Campbell on drums.
mm,
Bill Pierce played saxophone,
yeah,
and either Greg Hopkins or Jeff Stout. We had different trumpet players, and it was Larry Monroe was an alto player, and yeah, so that's what happened. I got friendly with all these teachers that were already kind of upper level
professional,
professionals.
yeah,
Yeah, and then through them, I started meeting other people. Like Mick played with Gary all those times.
sure.
Pat Metheny, I played with Pat's brother,
Oh, Mike.
Mike. Yeah, I
Uh,
played with him regularly at a club called Riles in Cambridge
oh,
for
really?
a
Wow.
couple of years. And in that time period, Pat would unannouncedly, supposedly unannounced, sit in. But somehow the word would leak out and there'd be a bunch of people there, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Anyway, so that's what happened. That's how I kind of got on the scene, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm also, you know, when you do gigs in places, you know, like where they have whoever it is that books the place happens to be there to see that artist. There was a club called Scullers in Boston, a guy named
Yeah.
Fred Taylor was managing it. So Fred, he saw me play with all these different people, and he gave me my own gig at Scullers, you know, and yeah, I was able to bring in some good people. And I did a gig there actually, well, after Fred died, but a couple of years ago with Walter and Smitty,
Mm,
the whole band.
beautiful.
Lawrence couldn't make it, and Vic was gone, so I got Cheryl Bailey on guitar
Mm,
and Bruce Barth played piano.
oh, beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
fantastic. Well, when did you start leading bands, by the way?
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, I started leading bands around 1991,
Uh-huh, yeah, yeah. Okay, so
just
it was that period. Yeah,
before that first Blueprint album.
yeah.
That's when I decided to have my own band because I was playing a lot with Jerry Bergonzi, and we would play a lot of my tunes
Yeah.
as well as his tunes. And I thought to myself, well, I'm starting to get a number of tunes here. Maybe I should have my own gig, you know? And so I put together that group, and I ever since then, I've been trying to keep it.
Oh man, you've been prolific as hell. Like it's like,
Oh,
I mean,
thanks.
really, like as a composer, so much music and beautiful
You should
tunes.
see
And
my music stand, man. It's cut. It's all there's all this. It's all cut. The piano is like it's all
mm,
these tunes, you know.
beautiful.
And I have so many tunes now that when I have my gig at the Lily Pad once every other month, I have to pick out of 300 tunes which 10 tunes I'm going to play.
That's heavy. Yeah,
And
that's heavy.
and I'm still writing new stuff, and I want to hear that. So that's the only challenge. I don't have enough gigs to play my. I need more gigs.
That's a, that's a good, like,
Yeah, good problem
request.
to have.
Yeah, yeah. But was it heavy for you, when you did Blueprint and Third Eye, becoming a band leader? Did you,
Yes,
having all those guys in the, Abercrombie and
I know.
Bergonzi seasoned guys and
Well, Abercrombie was an angel. He was a
mm,
sweetheart. At the time, Joey Calderazzo and Adam Nussbaum were like, they were like a couple of kids, man, just completely immature, like making stupid things, like doing all this silly stuff. And I was very serious about this. I put a lot of work into it. I was
mm,
investing my own money in the first to begin before I sold it to a label.
yeah,
And I had put so much time into planning this thing. And here these guys are clowning around. So it was a little challenging. And then also, like, they sometimes, not so much Adam, but last minute, like Joey would like put me at ransom and say, "Man, I need an upgrade on my hotel."
mm, yeah,
What do you mean, man? There's nothing wrong with that hotel. What are you talking about? Well, I'm not sure if I can make the gig, man. I need this upgrade. The
yeah,
day of
yeah.
the recording,
Band
come
leading.
on, come on. So I think since then he's grown out of that stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, he was a kid back then. Yeah, almost.
oh
Yeah,
my God,
yeah.
he still has a lot of that energy
Hmm.
though.
No, but
Yeah.
did you ever bring those bands with Abercrombie to Europe also on the road or
No,
no? Oh, okay.
only in the U.S.
Oh, in the US. Okay.
Unfortunately, yeah, I never got. I did apply to play in some gigs, and there was a potential gig in Poland
Hmm.
uh, that fell through at the last minute. But I actually had everybody together to do it,
Hmm.
and then it fell through. Yeah, I got the connection through George Schuler,
Yeah.
Hunter's son,
Yeah.
and he had a lot of connections. You know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I applied to play at Banff as well in Canada, and I sent out stuff to all the festivals in Europe at the time. Man,
Yeah.
it was so much effort, and I thought, man, I really need to get like somebody to book me. That's the
Yeah.
best thing.
Yeah.
So here I am. I'm 71, and I don't have a booking agent. I still
Hmm.
need one. Yeah, yeah.
Good that you have the teaching gig, so that's
Yes, it
important.
is, and I think
It is.
I might be able to afford an agent, but I don't really know what they're charging these days. But
Yeah.
you know,
It's hard after COVID now in Europe. I mean, so many clubs closed, and they don't do
yeah,
Americans anymore because the budgets went down, and so it's hard. It's become harder, I think,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
booking.
yeah,
But
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, economies are affecting everything.
yeah,
You know,
definitely.
yeah.
Uh, Bruce, not to take too much of your time, but I wanted to ask you also your experience with Mick, and I just listened to Sun Screams today.
Oh,
And it starts with In Your Own Sweet Way, and then there's
mhm.
your tune, the second tune, and it's such a beautiful record.
Oh,
Uh,
thanks.
how was your experience with Mick and playing with him? And
Oh, I loved Mick. I thought he was just. I couldn't believe how he could just be so still
Mm.
and play all that stuff. Like he never seemed to be animated in any way. He was just like he looked like he wasn't even moving except for his fingers, you know. But he was a really funny guy,
Yeah.
and he of course was in my car more than anyone. He didn't drive, and he'd either be when I had a hatchback, he'd be in the front next to me. We'd talk, and when I didn't have a hatchback, he'd be in the back because the bass had to go in the reclining seat. but you know, he had an amazing sense of humor.
Yeah.
You know, we went up to Montreal together with him and Bergonzi. We had such a fun time. Mick referred to it back, he referred to it as the Lost Weekend.
Okay, that's promising.
Yeah, yeah. But I played with him for a long time.
Yeah.
He was also close with that alto player, Jimmy Mosier, the guy that turned me on to Abercrombie gig. They were really close. So I did a lot of gigs with them. And then Jimmy passed away, but I continued to play with Mick.
Mm.
And actually, we went to, in Cambridge, there's a place at Harvard called Sanders Theater. You know, some heavy cats play. Brad Meldau plays there and stuff. They had at the time Colin Walcott. He was the
Oh wow, beautiful.
percussionist from Oregon, I think,
Yeah.
at the time. And Mick called me and said, "Hey, you and me are going to play with Colin Walcott at the Sanders Theater." And it was really cool.
How was that, man? Oh,
It
I
was
wish
amazing.
I wish that was a
Amazing.
recording.
If it
Oh
was,
shit.
I'd like to hear it because it was really cool. He had so many percussion instruments.
Yeah.
Colin did. It was super creative gig, you know.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that was nice. So, and what else did I do with Mick? I played with a lot of people with Mick. Herb Pomeroy liked Mick a lot.
Mm.
Oh, we played together in Greg Hopkins' big band for a couple of years.
Also cool.
There's a record called, you might want to check, it's called Okavango.
Okay, don't know that one.
Greg Hopkins' big band.
I'll write it down.
Yeah, Okavango. And Mick plays great solos on that record.
Check it out. Wow,
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful guy.
I visited Mick before he passed away. And at the time, I guess he'd resigned himself to the fact that he was dying.
Mm.
And he was just watching a bunch of DVD movies. And so after we hung for a few minutes, he threw me out to get back to his movie. You know, I felt kind of sad about that because, you know, I love the guy and he's dying. But okay.
That's the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess when you're checking out, you know,
you want your peace. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
you know, the Advancing Guitar is by him. That's like for me the Bible, obviously, and
classic. I love that book.
Yeah, it's like, and when you said humor, you know, the last 20 pages when it's just text, that's the best part of the book. You know.
Yeah. I like the silence.
The silence. Yeah.
Page.
Beautiful. He couldn't have said it in a better way. It's just like,
I know.
That's it. I was like, man. And you've written also a lot of bass books. And what does education give to you also? I mean, you're so dedicated to education, like.
Yeah. Well, that's because I'm a perpetual student myself. And so, you know, I'm sharing my learning experience with the students. You know, and then I learned a lot from them because, you know, they're on these modern trends that I didn't grow up with, you know. Like we didn't even have computers or cell phones or any of that stuff. You know, I wrote big band charts in Berkeley when I was taking arranging by hand and had to copy all the parts by hand and transpose them and everything, you know.
Yeah.
Now you can just do it all in, you know, notation program. Yeah. But
Bruce, what's on the schedule for you for this year? Do you have some upcoming recordings coming up or festivals or?
Oh, well, you know, I'm collecting all this music that I'm gonna go and record.
Fantastic.
You know, I have a gig. I have a lot of. I'm a busy guy this week. I'll tell you that. Let's see. Okay, so you know the guitar player is Gray Sargent.
No.
He was Tony Bennett's guitar player for like 20 years before Tony Bennett. Great guitar player. And we met at Berkeley like when we were students very long time ago. So I'm playing with him Thursday night. That's going to be nice. And then the bass camp is going to start over the weekend. And then I got this Coltrane opening thing on Saturday, and then the camp continues. Tuesday is my residency at the Lily Pad, the 25th, a week from today. So I have Cheryl Bailey. I've got a great drummer who people don't know about this guy, but he studied with Bob Moses. He's a really great player. He's not a young guy, but he's just Gary Fieldman is his name.
Actually, no, don't know.
He's got an amazing dynamic range and a great feel. So he's on drums, and Cheryl Bailey's on guitar. Dino Gavoni is a sax player. He's playing tenor, and Phil Grenadier on trumpet. So
Beautiful.
that should be a nice gig.
Oh yeah.
And, yeah. And then I'm my next. Yeah, then I'm playing a couple of gigs with Phil Grenadier nearby, and doing my own concert at the synagogue in Melrose, where I live. It's an annual event. It's called Keeping Jazz Alive.
Oh, beautiful.
So there was a World War II veteran named Irving Smolens, okay? He was at that big beach invasion in Normandy.
Yeah.
He's one of the few guys that survived that.
Wow.
And he was a huge jazz fan. So, he would say to me, we did a few jazz concerts there, and he was like, man, this is the best. This is the best. You got to keep this going, And like about maybe 6 months before he passed away, he said, you got to keep the jazz alive, And it didn't happen for a few years, and then we started it up again. So I'm doing that, probably going to play some of my tunes and bring a singer in, and for the people and stuff, because not everybody relates to the original jazz, as you know.
12-tone tunes and
Well, yeah, I'm not going to do any of those.
I know.
I saved those for the special events.
Beautiful.
And then I've got some things in July, but I'm not going away. I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, I'm pretty much going to be within the New England area.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, if you're coming to Europe, drop me a line. Let me know.
I'll want to come to Europe. I was in Lisbon. I took my whole family there for 10 days.
Beautiful.
From the end of May into the last 10 days of May.
Yeah, it's nice.
That was fantastic. That was really great. I'd never been there before, except at the airport.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I've always loved going to Europe. I used to go to Italy every summer for probably 10 years, for the Umbria thing.
Yeah.
And but I haven't been doing that for a while, so.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, next time you're around, drop me a line. We have a guest room here. You're invited.
Oh, nice.
Come hang.
I have a friend who wants to bring me to Barcelona. I met him in Venezuela. I was doing a clinic there for a week. I made friends with all these kids in 1 week, and they're still like tight with me. This was back in 2008.
Already. Oh.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
And they're still in touch with me, like Facebook and everything. And so there's this piano player. His name's Antonio Matze. He's very good. He went to Manhattan School of Music, and now he lives in Barcelona. And he emailed me and he said, I want you to come and do some playing. I said, great. Okay, here's my schedule.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I'm waiting.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can hook it up somehow.
That would be nice.
Would be
really
nice.
nice. So stay in touch with me.
Yeah, definitely. And but thanks again, Bruce, for finding the time today and sharing some of these thoughts. It was nice to hear you talk about it.
So it's nice to do these kind of things. I don't delve into the past that much on a regular basis. So
and you've done so much, so it's like so many connections there. So that's beautiful. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate your patience with me in terms of scheduling and everything.
We did it.
Yeah. Cool.
So, cool.
All right.
Great, man. I'll leave you a nice, what is today? Tuesday afternoon. So, but thanks again. And I'll let you know when this is out. I'll send you a link.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, Samo.
Okay, Bruce. Bye.